Hey, thanks for joining me in the shop today, guys. Today we're going to talk about Lionel Alcos. And a lot of times, if you look, I talk a lot about the early Alco and the later period Alcos. The early Alcos had a die-cast frame. That'd be like your Union Pacific 2023s or 2033s, your Rock Islands or your Eries. And a lot of time I describe them as like a miniature version of the F3, as far as they have a cast frame, the battery goes up in the center of them. They had a two-piece motor that separates from the chassis. They were a really well-built Alco. They had their share of problems too, like everything. And then later in the 50s, the early 50s, 1, 2, that was the Alco they were making. And then later in the 50s, they come out with what a lot of people call the sheet metal Alcos, and that's what I have here in front of me as the sheet metal Alco. Now this here is a 217, I'm sorry, AB, Boston and Maine. Now they never made a B unit for the early Alcos. They always come in AA. So in the mid 50s, Lionel actually come out with what they call the sheet metal frame. So this is, instead of being a cast piece with details, just a piece of sheet metal that was bent over on the sides. And it was a cost cutting method, without a doubt. But they're still a good quality engine. They run good. Obviously, they stood the test of time. But they had their problems too. The first series Alco, the pilot in the front was cast in part of that frame. So I brought a couple shells here. So a lot of times I had a guy call me and we were talking, and he says, you talk a lot about the pilots and stuff, and what are you talking about? So I thought I would show, when you look at these Alcos, the later versions, especially made in the mid 50s, 60s, you'll see that they have like a pilot here. And this was a real thin piece of plastic. And it was real common, if they ran into stuff, that they'll either crack, or, like I said, they'll bust off a piece. Like this one here has a piece. So you can see how what happens. And then a lot of times, people will go in there and sometimes they'll cut both sides and make them look like that, which is good for a running engine. And then obviously into the 90s and stuff, Lionel actually quit putting the pilot in there. So when you see like the Santa Fe's, let's say in the Super Chief from 1993 set, this is what the shells look like. So I mean, so that's what it looks like. So a lot of times when you see these older ones, you think, well, maybe it didn't have a pilot. They all have pilots, or they had what they call a closed pilot, where it was solid in the front without a coupler. But anyways, so when you look at these engines, that's the key thing you're going to find. You're either going to find them intact, which is the best, obviously. Sometimes they're cracked and they've been glued, which is the second to the best. And then you're going to find them that they made a replacement piece and they could have glued in there, which is okay for running, but at that point the collector's value is not there, in my opinion. Or you'll see them busted, or you'll see them where someone just totally took a little saw and cut them off and did that with them. So, but these are good engines. The funny thing about the Alcos is they made them in, like I said, they come in a lot of entry to middle sets into the post-war period. So the better Alcos, your Minneapolis St. Louis and that type of thing, some of them actually took a battery for a horn. They had 3-position E units in them, magnet traction, and they were a good engine, a good quality engine. And then they also put the same Alco in some of the cheaper sets and the starter sets into the late post-war period, which gets into the mid and late 60s. And you'll get into them when you flip them over on the bottom side. You'll see a worm gear coming on there on the shaft, and they were only single axle. And then some of them even had the first series of the traction tire. A lot of times people, talk about the MPC era, and they talk about the traction tire versus magnet traction, and they kind of forget that the traction tire actually started in late post-war. The Lionel did that for the Alcos, and even some of the entry-level switchers had single-wheel traction tire. So it wasn't an MPC idea, it was actually a late post-war idea. But getting back on the Alco, so they come in different variations. Now I really, when you start running a layout, I really do like a 3-position E unit, which is forward, neutral, reverse, versus a 2-position E unit is just forward, reverse. You wouldn't think you'd need that neutral, but it does come in handy, especially if you have stuff that's running off track voltage. Now, if you were running 027 track and you didn't have a constant voltage on your O gauge, or even the Super O track, you could wire it where the switches ran off of track voltage or fixed voltage. You know, when you threw your engine in neutral, you could throw your switches and, you know, push the power up and run your switches, where with that 2 position, you know, it's either going forward or reverse. So it is kind of handy to have the neutral, believe it or not, once you start operating this stuff. But again, your better Alcos of that period, the sheet metal Alcos, came with front coupler with pilot. They come with closed pilot. They come with 3 position E units, 2 position E units, magnet traction, single axle, and then they come with the single axle with the traction tire. Real quick, one of the reasons I brought this set to show you that the 2017 is this was one of the first era, the 2017, where they actually started making a B unit, like we talked about earlier, which was kind of cool. They kept doing that obviously into the MPC era, under the Santa Fe. You'll see a Santa Fe A, B, and so the B unit for the Alcos were really nice. And the Alcos, I even touched base on this one. If you look up my 70 diesel starter sets, they really put a lot of pretty paint schemes on the Alcos, I think, and I like the Alcos. I think that they're neat, they're affordable, and like I said, they made a lot of nice road names and a lot of nice paint schemes. So when you get into these, again, that's what you look for. Some common things when we talk about the pilots and 2 position, 3 position E units. The other thing too with the Alcos, real quick while we're on it, is you always want to look at the back screw where it goes in. It's very common to see that cracked or busted or glued. So again, you know, when you're looking at these, you know, you always want to make sure that's what you want to look for. And if that doesn't bother you, that's a negotiation piece as far as the value of it. Again, a good value piece, intact plastic shell, no cracking, no gluing, nice lettering. The other thing is too, is the sheet metal frames, again, would have a tendency to rust. I've seen it before where they're laid on a side in a damn basement, and this side is nice, and this side has rust, and even has damage to the plastic because of the rust and stuff comes up, and the moisture damages the paint. So just common things to look for. They have a self-centering coupler back here with a spring on it, so you always want to make sure that's there and that's working. Again, same thing with the B unit, the shell, the frame, the couplers. But they're good little units, and they're fun to collect. I actually started collecting Alcos before I did F3s because I like them and they're fun to operate. They don't take up a lot of room, and you can run an AB, and it's not a long train. So, but again, when you look at these, the pilots are important, and it's a fun place to start. And like I said, it goes all the way from the mid-50s up into modern day. They're making it with the Alcos AB or AA. So, hope you got some information out of this. If you're over in the Akron, Ohio area, I'm right off I-76. I'm 15 to 20 minutes to the west. I'm in Norton. You can give me a call, 330-825-4206. I'm Rob from Stop Time. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my page. I'm talking all Lionel. And if you ever want to get on eBay, you can look me up at Stop Time Co. STOPTIMECO. And check out some of my product I have for sale. Hey guys, don't forget, Lionel is an investment in happiness. It's a great hobby. It's a lot of fun. Happy moderarity, guys. Thank you.